Smouldering footsteps. Obviously about myself and Sid Barrett, who I felt I really understood the guy. Smouldering footsteps. Eyes that lie like a wandering gypsy with a fairy tale smile. You tread your daily mile. As you leave, you don't look back. Into the rainbow you go, stealing comfort. Walking the mountains of the mind in the rain. Thoughts stripped like a sinking sun. Your new life has just begun. Moon outreached, guiding you to where you want to be. Your footsteps smouldering as you trace these sunny climes, swimming to another shore.
Yes. Yeah, taking
extraordinary
life and limb into. Oh God, that's true.
Careful with that axe, Eugene.
Yeah, at my age, this is what happens, you know. Right. So let's leave the dripping microphone and go on to Picasso.
Was that a dripping night?
Yeah, we talked about Salvador Dali and the dripping watches. Right, so we promised that the crowd, we promised them that you're going to draw the line between yourself, Picasso and Humphrey Lyttelton. So can you explain, please? Explain yourself, young man.
Right, okay. So I told you I got fostered in 1965. I was going out with Humphrey Lyttelton's daughter. She was at the art school as well. And we had a lovely kind of time. No sex though. There was no sex. It was pure, totally pure. And she said to me one day, Donovan is playing at the Royal Albert Hall. And my dad has his own box and we can have it. So we trundled along to the Albert Hall, private box, a lovely view of Donovan. It was a fantastic gig. Donovan in his early days, don't forget. So that was wonderful. Anyway, going back to Cambridge was fine, and then her best friend told her parents, I got busted. And her mother turned up. I was just leaving her flat. She lived opposite me, and she lived in the house of Alistair Crowley, which was a dark house, and we used to obviously congregate there and have parties there. Anyway, I left her flat. Her mother was outside, so they were taking Henry away because of the bust. Her stepdad at that time sending her to Italy to finish her art career. I was young and heartbroken and devastated, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't see her for a long, 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 long time. And then she turned up at my mother's house. She had married a gypsy guy, in Italy, an Italian gypsy guy. Very unhappy, 2 sons. And she bought me my very first classical album, which was Algar and Nimrod. It didn't work out between us, so anyway, that was it. And then years later, in 1981, 82, there was a radio program, and Henrietta Lyttelton was looking for me and wanted to meet up. Well, I didn't hear the radio programme, but a friend of mine in London emailed, he phoned me up and said, Henry's looking for you. Gave me her phone number, I called her. I went down to Chelmsford, where she was living, and we got together for a few hours and it didn't work out. And I moved back to Lancaster, where I was living, and we never saw each other again, so it obviously wasn't meant to be. So it was a complex, not a real relationship. It was quite complex, actually. But I loved her at the time, and I was heartbroken, but you get over these things.
Sometimes.
Not necessarily.
And
No, you do. You do go over it. You do go.
Keep on trucking.
a Frenchman called Claude.
Right, right. This is interesting. I didn't know that Sid Barrett and his girlfriend Libby Gawtham had split up. They had a bit of a kind of tumultuous relationship at the end, and they decided to split. And I bumped into Libby, who was with this guy, who I didn't know, and she said, "I'd like you to meet Claude." And we shook hands and said hi, and yeah, we got on fine. And it worked out that he was the son of Picasso. So we became good friends. And he was part of the Cambridge scene for a very short time. I don't know what happened to him, because by then I was thinking of moving to London, which I did. So I didn't see him again. And then I heard recently that he joined a theatre designing in New York, and that he had died. So that's a very short kind of relationship, friendship I had with Claude. Lovely guy, a lovely guy. He was at the a local language school, the Bell Language School, which was quite prestigious. You had to be very rich to get in there. But here we are, me down there and him up there. Yeah.
Well, we're going to deal with, because meanwhile Sid Barrett had formed Pink Floyd with David Gilmour, as we asked. Right, hey, let's finish the Cambridge years before we go into the next poet. So you were still in Cambridge, did you have a breakdown in Cambridge, or?
I had a dark period.
Whiskey.
And it was a drug-induced breakdown.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, pure drugs are okay. They're better than alcohol, actually, but that's not mentioned. But there were dealers coming in that were cutting drugs with all kinds of chemicals, like talcum powder, Vim, Ajax, any detergent. And this is why people died.
Rat poisoning.
Yeah, this is why people died, yet the media was blaming people taking drugs.
Yeah.
Well, it was the pushers that were the problem. I got poisoned. I knew a couple of Swedish girls that worked in Addenbrooke's hospital in the labs. I was on my way to an acid party and I bumped into these two girls. I said, "Oh, we've got some really wonderful amphetamine. We've made it." Like a fool, I dropped a couple of tabs. And it just sent me crazy. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But it really altered my life. I went through a very, very dark period, paranoia. I developed a stammer. I couldn't be around people. I didn't trust people.
How old were you when that happened?
How old was I then? 19, I guess.
What?
So, a nipper.
But you see, the pure and good drugs are okay, recreational drug, but don't overdo it, for heaven's sake. But it was the actual pushers, and they're real arseholes, that were trying to make a lot more money by cutting stuff, so their drugs would go further afield and spread it out so they made
You
more
were
money.
also a vulnerable young person at 19 years
Well, we were
old.
naive. I mean,
exposed
don't
to so
forget,
much.
in the 60s, there was no kind of information about drugs like there is today.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in education, I taught kids, and I've taught kids that are on drugs and, you know, alcohol, whatever, teenagers. But they have the information that we didn't have. And we were naive, but the zeitgeist that flowed through us all,
So
we
if
went
you
along
were
with it.
So if you were to do your life again,
Sorry?
if you were to do your life again, would you never participate in those?
No, I'm totally now against drugs. I'm totally against drugs.
What, even alcohol?
It's,
I
I tell you what, it's legal. No, seriously, because of the bad experience I had,
Yes.
I've been clean over 30 years
Do you
now. I
think,
won't
like-
touch anything.
Do you think it comes down to moderation is the best
Sorry?
scenario? Moderation is the best scenario. You can play around with things, but you know, just moderate.
Moderation, please.
Moderation.
Exactly. I think everything in moderation. But the thing is, we all have a different kind of
We don't.
physical
We don't, but
kind
we
of
do.
system.
We don't, but we do.
Where some people can take more drugs than another. My friend could take 5 amphetamine pills,
Yeah.
and I could take 5, and I'd be up for like 2 days. So your constitution is, everybody's constitution is different,
Yeah.
and that's not what's given out on the drug scene.
But Pete, with Sid Barrett, wasn't because he was overdosed, wasn't he, against his knowledge?
Well, nobody knows what happened to Sid. Because I went through a very similar thing to Sid, I can actually feel I know what happened to him. But in those days, when you were hip
LSD
and
was
cool,
like a-
when you were hip and cool,
It was a chemical solution that you're putting into your body.
yeah. But not
Obviously.
only that, but when you're hip and cool,
Are you on the call
you
now?
don't mention that you're having a bad time. If you're in a room full of a party
Yeah.
and you're having a bad trip,
Yeah.
you don't tell anybody because nobody wanted to know you were uncool.
Yeah.
So Sid and myself
us
kept it to
them, us
ourselves.
and them, yeah.
But you know, I did therapy when I moved to Spain with my ex. We ran an alternative centre, and I got into doing therapy,
Yeah.
and it was psychodrama, which actually made you get in touch with all your crap from childhood right up to where you are, and that helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
I do have off days, you know, but yeah, it's had a profound effect on my life, physically, emotionally,
But it
whatever.
might not
And that's bad
necessarily.
drugs because somebody was giving out bad drugs.
But it might not have necessarily been the drugs. It might just
Because
be
you're
your
No, it was the drug.
toxic
No, it was the drug.
environment.
No, it was a chemical. It was a chemical reaction. It was a chemical thing that happened to me, and I can't explain it. But this is why I know when Sid Barrett, they
Yeah.
claimed he went mad.
Yeah.
He had
He
a
was a
very
recluse,
similar.
wasn't he?
Had a
He was a
very
recluse.
similar.
Wasn't
Yeah.
he? He was a recluse.
Sorry.
He was a recluse.
Recluse.
Oh, that
Yeah.
came later. That came later
Well,
because I met up with him in
Yeah.
London.
Well, we're going to come on to that after the next poem. So let's
Right.
finish your time in Cambridge, and let's have the next poem.